It is 1989 in a research lab at the College of Medicine in the University of Lagos. The first IVF pregnancy in Nigeria has just been successful. It was a remarkable feat by Professor Oladipo Ashiru and his team. But to get to this stage, it took a lot of field experiments on rats and limited funds to see the journey through. IVF was brand new and it had been done only in a select few countries with advanced technologies and equipment. How was a professor in a third world country able to replicate these experiments and ultimately become successful? First, let's rewind a bit, back to the industrial ages from the late 1800s. Commercial industries have started to spring up with the adoption of technologies like the steam engine train. The economy was booming and many people flocking into the cities for better opportunities. With the rise in population in these cities and increase in pollution from factories, fertility rates around the world started dropping drastically. There was a 30 to 50% population decline in Western Europe and USA between 1870 and 1920. Treatment options were very few, and the available ones in alternative medicine were limited in scope and efficacy. Other options included spiritual and unorthodox means. Many people seeking here were left with daunted hopes. However, underneath all this, a scientific research was brewing. In 1978, Dr. Patrick Steptoe, Jean Pardee, and Robert Edwards, after years of research, achieved the seemingly impossible. They performed the world's first successful IVF procedure, resulting in the birth of Louise Brown, the first test tube baby. If you aren't familiar with what this means, IVF is where the egg is taken out of the woman, the sperm is gotten from the man, both are combined together in the laboratory, and when the eggs get fertilized and develops a bit, it is returned back into the woman's womb to continue its journey. This revolutionary feat sparked global attention, and the science was replicated everywhere. Newer and even more sophisticated techniques like intracytoplasmic sperm injection, where a single sperm is selected and injected directly into the egg, and cryopreservation, where the sperm, eggs, or even the embryos can be frozen in time, were adopted. India got the second IVF baby the same year. The United States got its own first IVF baby 3 years later, in 1981. It was the 15th IVF baby in the world. It was closely followed by successes in France, Italy, Germany. Africa was not far behind, with South Africa successfully performing its first IVF procedure on the continent in 1984. Back to Nigeria. Laboratory research started in the early 1980s with Professor Ashiru in his research lab at the College of Medicine, University of Lagos. Here, Professor Ashiru and his team successfully performed IVF on rats. They published their findings, garnering national and international attention. After the laboratory success, Professor Ashiru and his team, along with Professor Osatogiwa Osage from the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at Lagos University Teaching Hospital, LUTH, embarked on the next level, the human trials. They started in the late 1980s, but the path wasn't smooth. Their first attempt sadly ended in a miscarriage in 1984. Despite this setback, their dedication caught the attention of the Nigerian government. The then Minister of Health, Dr. Emmanuel Isan, along with subsequent panels, acknowledged the team's groundbreaking work. They were commended for their efforts, but the important thing, funding, was non-existent, and this significantly hampered their progress. Despite the funding struggles, there were glimmers of hope. In 1985, Dr. Olatubosun and his team at St. Nicholas achieved a successful delivery using a technique called gamete intrafallopian transfer, GIFTs, where the unfertilized sperm and eggs are deposited into the fallopian tube. This was followed by a similar success from the Ashiru Giwa Osage team in 1986. Finally, in 1989, a monumental achievement was reached. A woman who lost her fallopian tubes became pregnant through IVF at LUTH. This marked the first successful IVF birth, not just in Nigeria, but in all of West Africa.
The first test tube baby was conceived and delivered here in LUTH by another living legend, Professor Osatogiwa Osage. He's alive and well. He still works for this hospital.
The 1990s saw a shift. In 1994, Professor Ashiru relocated to the United States, continuing his work in assisted reproductive technology, while his expertise helped Nigerians abroad to achieve parenthood. The IVF program in Lutz stalled. However, the dream of bringing IVF to more Nigerians did not die. Years later, in 1998, Dr. Wada and his team at Nisa Premier Hospital in Abuja reported a successful documented pregnancy from embryo transfer. Lady Anatu
In Vitro Fertilization baby, if you like, or test tube baby born in our hands.
God used a doctor to bring me to life.
This was followed in 2001 by the first reported ICSI fertilization and births achieved by Dr. Richard Ajayi at the Bridge Clinic in Lagos.
I was surprised by the large number of Nigerians that were constantly coming to the UK for treatment. And after a few years of watching them, my entrepreneurial nerves started to twitch. And I thought to myself, well, there's a major opportunity in Nigeria.
These milestones showcase the emergence of new players and newer techniques in the Nigerian IVF landscape. From the early 2000s onwards, we see a rise in the number of IVF clinics across Nigeria. Doctors like Dr. Iketu Bosun at George's Memorial, Dr. Ego Eli at M&M Fertility, Dr. Bayomi Ajayi at Nordica Fertility Center, Dr. Idaosa at TIF, and their teams at various hospitals alike all reported successful births through IVF. Despite these advancements, a major concern still remains the lack of a national regulatory body specifically for IVF practices. The unregulated clinics springing up may exploit desperate couples with lower quality standards and unethical practices. Developed countries like the UK have completely different systems. To operate a fertility clinic, you need 3 separate licenses from the Human Fertilization and Embryology Authority, Care Quality Commission, and Home Office Controlled Drug License. Still, the future of the fertility sector in Nigeria looks bright. With over 100 IVF practices running all over the country, it's still one of the biggest IVF industry in the world. The professionalism, success, and affordability makes it a prime destination for medical tourism.